When we're working lace, sometimes if you have to take your work off your needles and rip back, it can be difficult to tell exactly what is happening when you have yarn overs and knit two togethers and things like that that are changing the number of your stitches and where they lie and that sort of thing. When you get a lot of experience, you can generally figure it out, but it can be very tricky to do. So it helps if you put in what's called a lifeline, so that you can go back and grab all of your stitches if you have to do some tearing out. So once again, I'm just going to show you, there are our 5 holes. Those become a little more pronounced when you've worked up an additional row from them. So good, that's exactly what we want. Now for row 5, we are going to knit 1, then knit 2 together, not through back loop this time, through the front of the loop, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together through back loop, and knit 3. Now that is, the knit 2 together is going to lean toward the right, and the knit 2 together through back loop is going to lean toward the left. So we're kind of making those decreases branch in opposite directions in order to better shape our lace. So let's go ahead and start row number 5. Once again, I'm going to work my 4 border stitches. Slip my marker. Our instructions say to knit 1. There's 1. Then we're going to knit 2 together. So the needle goes through the next 2 stitches from the front. I'm going to do that one more time. So there's 2 stitches. I'm going to go through this way. Yarn wraps around and pulls through, so that 2 stitches now become 1. I'm going to yarn over, bringing my yarn to the front of my work, knit 1, now I'm going to yarn over again, and I'm going to knit 2 together through back loop, so I'm coming in through the back of these following 2 stitches, just like in the previous row. And then I'm going to knit 3. All right. Now I go back to the asterisk, where I am going to knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together through back loop, and knit 3. Back to the asterisk again, where I knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together through back loop. Now you can see, I'm going to pause for just a moment here and show you, get that working yarn out of the way, how the yarn overs I'm making in this row nestle nicely symmetrically on either side of that yarn over from row number 3. So that's what you should have. If your yarn overs that you're creating in this row are not positioned that way, then something has likely gone wrong with your count, and you may want to just tink carefully back to fix that problem. But for now, we're going to finish this repeat with our knit 3. And then I'm going to start at the asterisk again with knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together through back loop, and knit 3. Next repeat, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 1, yarn over, knit 2 together through back loop. And on that final repeat, instead of knitting 3, we only have 1 left. So it's knit 1, and then we work our border stitches. So again, turning our work, our even side rows, and we're beginning to see that pattern emerge, right? Where we've got the purl bumps on this side and our stockinette texture on this side. You can also start to see that we're having decreases that lean right and decreases that lean left. So even-sided row is just purling all the way across, aside from our border stitches that we're working in seed stitch. So here we come to a yarn over. Again, just purl into that. One stitch in between, and then there's another yarn over. And you can see that nice sort of, I guess it looks like a Mickey Mouse of sorts that we're getting there. And we'll just purl across. Number 7 is going to be exactly the same way as row 3. So if you have successfully made it through row 3, then you will be all good. All right, I almost just had a little hitch there that I will point out to all of you. I just went right through it without any thought at all. But sometimes these yarn over stitches can be a little bit looser than the other stitches. So for a moment, I've sort of had my yarn over try to come in front of the following stitch, like this, if you can see that. And I just sort of flicked it over with my finger because I knew that that wasn't where it was supposed to be. I can tell just feeling it. On the other side, you can see that it's coming from in front of that stitch. So just make sure that those are positioned correctly when you go to knit them. Or purl them, as the case may be. All right, so we're just about done with this row. Hopefully this isn't agonizingly long going through it row by row, but I thought that it might help to do it that way. So let's take a look. And we've got all of those nice little lace Mickey Mouse ears going across. All right. So we're going to work row 7, which is just like row 3. Our 4 border stitches are first. Oops, come back here. And then we work 1, 2, 3 stitches before our yarn over and knit 2 together through back loop, just like this. Okay, so having fast forwarded a little bit, here I am with rows 1 through 16 in my pattern all finished. I have gone ahead and done 1 full repeat of the pattern in the book, and I am ready to start row 1 of the following repeat. But I thought that before I did that, I would go ahead and show you all a little bit about lifelines. A lifeline is just an extra line, whether that's a piece of smooth waste yarn or some embroidery floss, or I like to use dental floss. It's slippery, it's smooth, it's cheap and readily available, and it works really well as a lifeline. I don't always use lifelines, but it can be a good idea if you think you might need to tear back in the case of having made a mistake and you don't want to lose any of your stitches. If you have a line running through each of them at a known point, then you can just tear back to that lifeline and you know where you are in your pattern and you'll still be all ready to go. If you are using interchangeable needles, you know that on the base of your needles is this little hole that's used to stick a key into to tighten your needle tip to the wire. If your needles have this, then on the needle that is going to be your right hand needle, the needle you are knitting your stitches onto, you can take a piece of dental floss and thread it right through that hole. Pull a little bit of extra through, and then you would just knit your row as normal. Here's my 4 border stitches. And as you knit, this line is going to pull right through the stitches you're knitting. Now, when I do this, it's a good idea to remove your stitch markers temporarily if you are using this closed ring type of marker. If you are, the lifeline will pull right through your markers and you will not be able to remove them until you remove your lifeline. So I just set those aside for one row. Row 1 is just knit all the way across. You can see my line right down here at the base of my needle, threaded through. And as I knit, it's just going to pull right through all of my stitches. And I've chosen to do this at a row 1 because that's easy to remember. And I know that if I need to rip back to this point, I will already have worked a row 1. And once I get those stitches back on my needle, I will be ready to work a row 2. Almost at the end here. I just usually leave the dental floss live coming from the roll so that I make sure I have plenty to pull through my stitches. Again, I'm just going to remove that marker. And then when I've finished my row, I just take that needle and pull it, make sure it's pulled all the way through. Hold it secure. And then I can cut the floss. Incidentally, a thing of dental floss is a great thing to have along when you are knitting, say on a flight or whatever. You've got your yarn cutter right here built in, ready to go. No scissors needed. So there you go. The line is going right through all of my live stitches, and then I just continue to knit the next row as normal. And if I need to tear back, I can tear back to this point, and this will hold all of the stitches. Now, if you don't have interchangeable needles, you will take your floss, thread it on into a tapestry needle. I like to position all of my stitches on the cord of my circular needle so that there's more space for me to go ahead and get through. And then just thread that floss right through the middle of your stitches, making sure that you don't miss any. There I am on the back side. I went right by some of them. Make sure you don't do that. Make sure you're getting right through the middle of each stitch. You can just go through all of them, and you're accomplishing the same thing as pulling it through with your interchangeable needle, just with a little added step. Pull it through, make sure I don't pull it through the other end all the way. And there you go. Also, another way to put a lifeline in. Okay, I will post another video when I have finished the block, and I will show how I go about blocking that in a little more detail. All right, thanks. I hope that helped. Have a good night.